great to see all of our returning viewers, and a warm welcome to those of you joining for the first time. In our last video, we explored the nature of the human person, defining it as an embodied rational soul. Today we'll take a deeper dive into the structure of the human mind, focusing on its two essential powers, knowing and willing. These powers don't just operate in sequence, they also follow progression from passive to active at each stage. By understanding this dynamic, we can better appreciate how humans think, choose, and act. Humans are living physical beings with the ability to move dynamically, distinguishing us from lower life forms like plants. Beyond this, we also possess rationality, enabling us to direct our minds and wills freely. Unlike animals, humans are not bound solely by instinct. We can reflect, evaluate, and act with intention. Central to all of this is the mind structure, which operates in two interconnected dimensions, knowing and willing. Both of these follow a passive to active structure. Let's explore that in a bit more detail. So, the first step in the process is knowing. Simply put, we cannot will or act on something unless we first know it. Knowledge is foundational, but it doesn't occur all at once. Instead, it develops into two phases. Phase 1. Passive knowing is the mind's readiness or general awareness. It's a state of receptivity, where the mind is open to being informed by the world around it. For example, you might sit in a room with a general awareness of your surroundings, the hum of the air conditioner, the faint scent of coffee, or some distant sound of traffic. At this stage, your mind is primed, but not yet actively focused. Phase 2. Active knowing occurs when the mind engages with a specific object or idea. This happens when a stimulus moves the mind from general awareness to focused understanding. For instance, hearing the sudden blare of a train whistle might shift your attention and make you actively aware of danger. Similarly, you might actively analyze a book or reflect on a conversation in order to gain some deeper knowledge. Knowing begins with sensory input. Our body gathers information through sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell. However, it doesn't stop there. Once the mind processes these sensory inputs, it can transcend and abstract from immediate experience, enabling us to think abstractly or understanding things beyond what we directly perceive. For example, we don't need to visit a faraway country, say for example, Australia, to know that it exists and what it looks like, but we do rely on sensory inputs, such as photos or maps or other people's testimonies, to gain this form of knowledge. So, once we know something, the second stage, willing, comes into play. Willing is the mind's power to respond to knowledge, either by desiring or rejecting it, and ultimately by making a choice. Like knowing, willing also progresses from passive to active. In phase 1, passive willing is the mind's initial reaction to what it knows. It occurs before any deliberate action is taken. At this stage, the will is moved either toward or away from an object based on its desirability. For example, if you smell a delicious burger, your passive will naturally might desire it. Conversely, if you see a very large hairy spider, your passive will might instinctively recoil from it. Active willing is the deliberate choice to pursue or avoid these objects in questions. This stage requires reflection and intention. Using the burger example, your active will might lead you to get up and head to the kitchen to see if you can find a burger. Similarly, your active will might move you to move away from the spider or take action to remove it. The progression from active to passive willing is where human freedom becomes really evident. Unlike animals, which act on instinct, humans can reflect on their desires, weigh alternatives, and choose actions that align with their goals. So, let's illustrate this full sequence with an example. Passive knowing. Adam wakes up with a general awareness of his surroundings. He smells something cooking, but hasn't yet focused on it. Active knowing. Adam identifies the smell. It's a burger being cooked downstairs. His mind actively engages with this knowledge. Passive willing. Adam's will naturally desires the burger. He feels hungry and drawn to the smell. Active willing. Adam makes a deliberate decision to get up and go downstairs to find about this burger. This progression from passive knowing to active knowing, and from passive willing to active willing, is a definitive feature of human behavior. It allows us to act with intention and freedom, rather than being driven purely by instinct. So, understanding this structure of the mind is key to understanding human decision-making. Here's why. For the human mind to function effectively, these dualities, knowledge and will, passive and active, must harmonize. Neither can operate independently. Knowledge without will leads to inaction. Will without knowledge might lead to the will missteps. Passivity without activity can make us stagnant, and activity without passivity leads to ignorance and rash decisions. These capacities to know and to will depend on the other in order to function properly. When knowledge and will, passive and active, are in balance, the mind operates at its fullest potential, able to understand, choose, and act freely and wisely. Ignoring any of these at the human level could lead to seriously negative effects in the long term. Okay, so this was a bit of a deep dive, so we'll try and summarize it a bit quickly. First, the body and mind work together in the human person to interact with the world around us. Second, the human mind operates in two stages, knowing and willing. Third, each stage progresses from a passive state of readiness or instinctive reaction to an active or focused engagement or deliberate choice. With this understanding of the human person, we can now move a bit forward. In the next video, we'll use this understanding of the mind to sketch an ideal individual and ultimately an ideal community. We'll explore how knowing and willing shape not just individual decisions, but collective systems and structures. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, let us know your thoughts or questions in the comments below. See you next time.